All right, 3.6 is going to look at absolute value functions. So absolute value is the distance from 0. It's those bars that looks like this. What it does is it's your absolute distance. It's just taking whatever's in there and making it negative, making it positive, sorry. So this red graph is f of x. If I take the absolute value of that whole graph, we're taking everything and making it positive. So this piece stays the same. This piece stays the same. And all of this down bottom has to become positive. So this point, 3, negative 2, is going to become 3, positive 2. This point, 4, negative 3, is going to become 4, positive 3. 5, negative 2 is 5, positive 2. So if I were to draw this graph, it would stay right there till I get to the positive point. Then it would flip back up and keep going. So essentially, I just reflected the negative part to make it positive. And now we have the absolute value of the graph. So the domain of f of x, this red one, is negative infinity to infinity. And the range is negative 3 to 0. Then, if I look at the absolute value graph, that's the blue one, the domain hasn't changed, but I can't be negative anymore. So now my range goes from 0 to infinity. That's how absolute value works on graphs. Excuse me. To solve absolute value functions or equations, you can get 2 answers, or up to 2 answers, because whatever value's inside the absolute value could be positive or it could be negative. So the first thing we do is we solve it just like a normal equation and ignore the absolute value. So I subtract 1 from both sides, divide by 2, and I get 3. So if I were to plug that in, 2 times 3 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7, absolute value of 7 is 7, so that works. The other option is we still have the same argument inside, but it can also equal negative 7 because those absolute value bars will make it positive. So we have to solve both equations. So what this tells us is that x can equal 3 and it can equal negative 4. Both of those will work. When you're entering that in the program, my Open Math, I think it tells you to separate the answers with commas. But as long as you find a way to show me that you got both answers, you'd get full credit. So let's do another one here. This one. So we'd make it equal positive 2 and negative 2. Oops. And then solve both. So subtract 4. Divide by negative 3. So one of our answers is going to be 2/3. That's not an x. Okay, subtract 4. Divide by negative 3. And our other answer is 2. Both of those will plug in and give us the correct response. It makes sense too, because if we're graphing them, a line would go through and hit the graph twice. So it makes sense that we would get 2 answers. Here is one example to pay attention to. If the absolute value equals a negative, there's no solution. Absolute value has to be positive. So for a graph like that, that would mean we're trying to see where it crosses down here, and it never does. So once all you have left on that left side is the absolute value, and it equals a negative, you have no solution. So that is 3/6.